Come on in, I'm Finn, and today I'm gonna talk about the worst kind of artists, and I have the feeling that if you read the title, immediately felt offended and started typing a hate comment, this video is for you! Let me be very clear that none of these categories are related to your skill level, your art style, or anything related to your technique. These are all behaviors that can affect you no matter your skill level, but that fortunately can be changed with enough introspection. And before starting, let's do a quick what you drawing, Finn? I'm working on a new silk-sunk print to bring to conventions, and that's all I can say about it, or I will just start rambling about the game, and that's not what you're here for. Now, without further ado, let's discuss the first type of bad artist. This first category might seem very obvious to the vast majority of viewers, but I cannot stress enough how important it is to just not be a jerk to others. I could say in general, just don't be mean. But if you're not yet convinced how that can affect your art career, let me elaborate a bit further. As a content creator, I've learned that you gotta over-explain things because people will always misinterpret your words in the most ridiculous way. So let me just say, no! When I say you gotta be nice to others, I don't mean you can't dislike people. It doesn't mean you gotta be a bootlicker. It doesn't mean that you can call out the person that likes kicking puppies in their free time. It also doesn't mean you have to be extremely extroverted. You can probably guess from my videos, but I'm an introvert. I feel most artists are. Just don't be constantly creating drama or making fun of beginners, or don't be known as the person who always forgets about their commissions. I knew back in art school someone who was very talented and got an internship at a comic company. But they would show up late, be rude to everyone including the people that offered them the internship, and guess what? They got blacklisted, both from that company and from any other opportunity the school was willing to give them. Some other classmates that got the same internship were later offered a gig drawing comics because they were nice. I'm a convention artist, and let me tell you, there are so many artists with great art that miss on a lot of sales because they're rude to customers and also to their artist alley neighbors. It doesn't matter how good your skills are. If you want to get hired for any sort of art-related job, such as animator or character designer at a company, one of the most important skills people look for is being able to do teamwork. And everyone can tell you how the art community is a lot smaller than you could think, and word spreads fast. You might lose many opportunities against other artists as skilled as you are, but that also have basic human decency. Don't forget how your digital footprint is also a thing, guys. If you don't think making fun of beginners is a bad thing, which, wild, think that all these things you're saying online might come to bite you back in some years. And to be fair, I hope they do. I've gotten many commissions from other artist friends redirecting clients to me when they were too busy. And I've also recommended other people I trusted for certain jobs. Not even extremely close friends, just people I was cordial with and I knew I could trust recommending them. I feel like most of you are just listening to this and thinking this is all common sense, because it is. This point was mainly dedicated to all of you who already have paused the video to tell me that I'm wrong and that if people don't want criticism, they shouldn't post stuff on the internet, and that free speech is a thing. And talking about criticism, this brings us to our next point, which is not being able to handle criticism. And pause. Now, let me clarify a very important distinction. There's a difference between accepting criticism from someone you trust and getting a comment from a random person on the internet. For the people that leave unsolicited criticism under random artist posts, they are not helpful. You don't go to an art exhibition and tell the artist to their face you don't like their technique. At least I hope you don't. It doesn't matter how bad you think that artist is. Just keep scrolling. And if you are typing again about free speech and yada yada, yes, you're free to state your opinion. Other people are free to block you too. Besides, most of the criticism in social media comes from very amateur artists, either expressing personal preferences or repeating advice they've heard of without giving an actual explanation. So listening to every single criticism you get is not only impossible, but would also be very detrimental. Okay, after this disclaimer, you cannot be a good artist without listening to criticism, either from teachers, peers, etc. And remember, you don't need to apply every piece of criticism. Maybe you really don't want to do something the way your teacher told you, but maybe you still try it. Figure out what is the thing they were trying to teach you, and then after trying to understand where that advice is coming from, you can determine if you should apply it or not. For example, in art school, most teachers could give us the advice to constantly flip the canvas, because it's easier to spot mistakes from a different perspective. But we also had one teacher that told us not to bother doing that because we could get so fixated trying to make everything so symmetrical and perfect that our drawings could look soulless. And who should I listen to then? Well, to both. I do flip my canvas because it helps me to spot mistakes, but the other advice has value too. I shouldn't try to achieve perfect symmetry because it's just not realistic. No one is fully symmetrical. Perfect teeth, a slightly smaller eye than the other, a crooked nose. This all gives so much more character for more realistic art styles and concept art, but it doesn't apply for every single situation. So listen to criticism, but don't feel forced to apply all of it. And I know it's hard, but do not associate your self-worth with how perfect your art style is. That's just gonna make you get more defensive and improve slower than your peers. I know of people that have asked specifically for criticism only to get defensive and try to justify themselves afterwards. Our art is not perfect. There's still a lot we need to learn, and to me that's one of the best parts about art. We can always improve. So no, making mistakes is not a sign of personal failure, and getting criticism will allow you to determine the best course of action to become the best artist you can be. One of the most infuriating kinds of artists are the ones who make everything about themselves. I'm talking about the kind of artist that will comment under a watercolor tutorial something along the lines of, "I use gouache, so these tips don't work." Yes, this doesn't apply to you. You don't need to announce that for everyone. Just scroll. You see this type of person under every commission post. Someone might have made an announcement saying, "I'm looking for an artist that can work in a children's book illustration style." And half of the comments are like, "Hello, here's my portfolio of gory and unsafe for work illustrations." Why are you here? You're wasting your time, the client's time, and you're flooding the post with messages that are gonna get ignored because you are not what the client was looking for. And let's not even get started on the ones that get upset about specific art events targeting marginalized communities. "Oh, I can't apply to this contest because it's only for people of color. It's so unfair this event only allows LGBT themed art. There are hundreds of other contests for you to join." Maybe if you use the time you spend complaining on Twitter to improve your art skills, you could win one of those. Small events that try to give visibility to often ignored creators are not a personal attack to you. Not everything is about you, nor me, nor anyone, and that's fine. Art takes so many shapes and forms and is based on so many different experiences, and that's one of the things I love the most about art. There are many art styles that I don't like, and I just ignore them. My opinion is not more important than the artist. I might not like something, but there's a ton of people that will. I feel so many online problems could just be fixed by people using the block button instead of arguing. Another questionable behavior I see a lot in social media, especially from small art business owners, is pity marketing as a tactic to get either engagement or financial support. I don't think it's an issue to share bad things that happen to you. I also have a problem with those who excessively romanticize the artist's experience. But oh my god, some people only post about how bad and miserable being an artist and a small business owner is, and that makes you look extremely unprofessional. It might get you some sales initially, but if you're constantly making your followers guilty for not supporting you and your small business, they're gonna end up tired of you. Another problem is emergency commissions. That it's not that I have an issue with the concept of them in theory, it's just that people seem to have been abusing them. An emergency is something serious and urgent. I know of some people who open emergency commissions because they wanted to buy a Nintendo. And I don't care how much you want it, that's not an emergency. And all these posts tagged as emergency commissions are flooding the tag, while people with actual life-threatening emergencies are getting hidden by the algorithm. You might look at other scammy artists that you think profit from pity marketing. I'm not gonna go into depth with any case in particular, but you can look up the whole Stickergate situation. Eventually, people get either exhausted from following someone that only complains about low engagement, or notice the guilt-tripping, lies, and scammy techniques. And no matter how many initial sales you think you might make, there's nothing worse for any artist than losing their audience's trust. And someone related to the previous point, stop self-deprecating. I mean it. Some people might self-deprecate as a way to get attention and comments from people, commenting stuff like, "Oh no, my drawing is so ugly," because they want others to take their art and tell them it's actually pretty. But I think those people are the minority. In my experience, most artists that self-deprecate genuinely think their art is bad. Self-deprecating is a self-defense strategy. Yeah, you cannot tell me my art is bad if I state it first. I'm aware it has problems, I'm not delusional. And I know because I was myself part of that group. I was such an insecure teenager. Fortunately, as I grew up, I became more confident. I feel self-deprecating is a normal phase for most young artists. And you will eventually grow out of it. But you still need to start taking those first steps. Being proud of your art and your progress requires some level of vulnerability. And unfortunately, we are in an era where no one wants to be genuine, and everything has to be ironic or you're deemed as cringe. But you do care. You put a lot of effort into your craft, so be proud of it. And an important distinction. There's a big difference between being critical of your work and self-deprecating. In my experience, being able to differentiate between the two was the key to stop self-deprecating. Sometimes a drawing you make is just gonna look bad, but instead of being like, I'm a terrible artist, try to point out what's not working. I need to study more anatomy. Or the composition is not working, let me try something else. Rating yourself from your art will not only improve your self-esteem, but you will be objective with the things you actually need to do to get better. Self-deprecating is detrimental. If you cannot show your art without berating it, people are gonna get uncomfortable real fast and they will wonder why you are even sharing it if you think it's that bad. Also, on behalf of all artists, when complimenting another artist's work, don't bring yourself down. It gets so awkward when you get a comment that's like, "Wow, your art is so good, I can barely draw a stick figure." Nobody knows what to reply to that sort of comment. It is gonna get better, I believe in you. Those were all the type of bad artists included in this video, but this was definitely not an exhaustive list. Is there any other type of artist we should include in this list? And if you fit into any of the categories I've mentioned before, we all have bad behaviors we need to work on. Fortunately, we can always change for the better. And that's all from me today. Subscribe if you want to see similar videos like this, and see you in the next one. Bye bye!